From the Premier defending possible use of the notwithstanding clause to new mandate letters for 5 Alberta cabinet portfolios, the mayoral race in Calgary, and an Alberta MP gearing up for a leadership run. Time now for tonight's politics panel. Joining us this evening, former MLA Karen McPherson and Janet Brown, Calgary-based public opinion consultant. Good evening to you both. And let's begin with the degree to which the Premier is prepared to defend laws affecting transgender people. Here's how she addressed the issue on her weekend radio show, including potential use of the notwithstanding clause.
That we can make the case that we shouldn't be doing medical interventions on children that will sterilize them. It just seems so obvious to me that is the case, and that is ultimately what the courts will decide. So I'm prepared to go to court and battle that out. I think we need to. But if it turns out that the court process may take years and years and years to resolve, then we may have to take that measure.
The comments come in response to news of an internal memo from Alberta's Justice Department that shows the Smith government is exploring ways to protect legislation on restricting youth access to puberty blockers, requiring parental consent for name and pronoun changes at school, and barring transgender girls from playing in female sports. Karen, I'll start with you as a former MLA. What message do you feel the Premier is sending here through consideration of this rare invoking of the Charter's notwithstanding clause?
Well, it is pretty rare. We haven't done it here in Alberta since 2020 for a private member bill that sought to exclude same-sex marriages from being legal in Alberta. And I think the message is clear that there's an intolerance for people whose gender is not male or female. We've got a trifecta of bills, especially the fairness and safety in sports, which targets girls. Parents already have to supply information, either a birth certificate or a passport, when they register their child at school. The school system already knows the gender of children. There's no benefit to having parents supply more information after the fact. I think it's a really unfair bill that is under the auspices of fairness.
Janet, how does this play, coming from a Premier known to be a libertarian, one who's about the protection of rights and freedoms?
Well, you know, the Premier's walking a fine line on this one. She has her hard right base who want her very much to institute these anti-trans laws. Then you've got sort of the middle Albertans, sort of the pragmatic middle. They're not really have firm feelings on this, but Danielle Smith has sort of raised issues with them. You know, I'm thinking about the type of person who maybe doesn't know a trans person, doesn't have a trans person in their lives, doesn't have anything against trans people. They just want to know if their own child is trans. Or maybe there's people who just don't know enough about the science around puberty blockers and that sort of thing, so that the Premier is sort of speaking to their anxiety around those things. So she's sort of walking this line, doing something that her right-wing base really likes, but she's found a way to make it acceptable to sort of more pragmatic people in the middle. So she thinks she has a piece of legislation that is worth fighting for, and that's what she's going to do.
One more question on this, Karen. What do you make of this coming to light through a leaked provincial memo?
That there's probably some discomfort within her own staff or within the bureaucracy with this kind of mandate coming down, that people are not comfortable with using the notwithstanding clause to particularly target one classification of gender or a variety of genders that aren't heteronormative.
All right. Well, debate around use of the notwithstanding clause may have been sparked by a leaked memo. A new mandate letter issued by the Premier to the Education Minister does direct using all available legal and constitutional means necessary to implementing government policy. It's one of 5 new mandate letters identified Monday. Janet, how normal is it to update mandate letters midterm? Generally make Albertans aware of the fact.
Well, you know, we're coming out of the summer season. We're going into fall. The legislature will be resuming. So I think the idea of just putting some new ideas in front of ministers, giving them some new priorities, I don't think that's really all that unusual. Mandate letters are a fairly new thing. They're a little bit more for show than they are for substance. But I think Danielle Smith is just trying to telegraph what this fall session is about. And, back to the point of this trans legislation, I think she is also signaling to her base that this is something that she is going to do and this is something she is going to pass.
Karen, is there anything to be made of the direction of the new mandate letters? And maybe to Janet's point, how does this set up for the fall sitting in just over a month's time?
It seems like they're kind of a mixed bag. There's some positive stuff, and then there's some stuff that Janet was referring to that does seem to placate a particular base. And I'm not sure why she's too worried about that at the moment. In terms of the fall sitting, I think it gives the opposition some fodder to work out their approach in the legislature, what they're going to focus on. It's really a mixed bag. I found particularly the education directive to spread funding amongst 7 different systems. I don't think we're doing anything well when we're doing everything kind of halfway.
All right. Time for us to take a bit of a break. But when we come back, setting the stage for Calgary's mayoral race and getting a read on an Alberta MP's leadership aspirations. More from our politics panel in a moment. Welcome back. We heard from the Calgary party's Brian Thiessen off the top this evening, the latest in our series of interviews with mayoral candidates from the 2 big cities. Janet, how do you see Brian Thiessen factoring into this race without the experience of having previously sat on city council?
Municipal races are really tough. Here in Calgary, and I think also in Edmonton, it's very hard to unseat an incumbent. Now, there's sort of blood in the water where Mayor Gondek's concerned, and it looks like a lot of candidates think this may be an incumbent that they can unseat. And it could be a competitive race, but name recognition is huge, and municipal campaigns get very little coverage. They seem to be short. So a candidate like Brian Thiessen, he seems to be well organized. He's become part of it. He's leading a political party, but it's only a month left to the election. It's a long time for somebody with virtually no name recognition to make a splash. So Brian Thiessen, like I said, he seems to be well organized, but name recognition may do him in the end.
Karen, he's up against an incumbent as well as current and previous city councillors. So what is it going to take to make inroads here as someone on the outside seeking to lead the next council forward?
A dramatic stance on something, or something has to really blow up in the meantime, something really scandalous to be uncovered, to give him that kind of attention and name recognition that doesn't exist right now. There's certainly a lot of recognition for those who serve on council and have previously been on council. So it's tough. It's a tough road ahead for any candidate who hasn't been regularly in the news. One advantage is Brian Thiessen used to be the chair of the police commission, so that gives him a little bit more profile. But in terms of the coverage that has happened over the last few years, there's been a lot more about other candidates who are currently running for mayor.
Janet, with candidates now locked in, what's now your read on the degree to which municipal political parties will play a role in the actual outcome of the mayoral race?
Well, let me just talk about Calgary. We've got 9 candidates that are running for mayor, and 2 of them are aligned with the political party and the rest aren't. And the candidates that I think you could argue are the front runners, Mayor Gondek and Jeremy Farkas, who came in second in the last mayoralty election in Calgary, they are both running as independents. So, political parties, I don't know, really have made a splash quite yet. Brian Thiessen's party has no incumbents on the slate of candidates. Parties are really defined by their leaders. And so when you have a leader that is got a low public profile, and you've got all these candidates, I think it's just going to be really confusing for Calgarians to understand what these parties stand for. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of prominent candidates saying, we don't want to have anything to do with parties. So I'm just not sure at the end of the day, parties are going to make much of a difference in this election. The difference is the people running under parties have the opportunity to spend more money. Take that out of the equation. I don't think there's much advantage to being part of a party right now.
All right. For us, one more topic. That is an Alberta MP who appears to be lining up a run for leadership of the federal NDP and appearing here on Alberta Primetime Friday. Heather McPherson wouldn't confirm her candidacy ahead of a September 28th announcement in Edmonton.
But I will say that I'm excited about the opportunity for the new Democratic Party to re-envision what our party needs. Get back to what it means to be a new Democrat, find ways to welcome more people into our party.
The Edmonton Strathcona MP may not be making it official just yet, but she is now listed as a registered NDP leadership candidate with Elections Canada. That gentleman there, activist and filmmaker Avi Lewis, launched his bid late last week with a campaign video posted to social media. Karen surprised she would register as a candidate, but hold off on declaring that candidacy and officially launching a campaign.
Yeah, that lag in launching the campaign has led to a bit of public coyness around whether or not she's actually going to run for the leadership. I think it's great that she's put her name into the hat. I think it's really important for the party to have somebody that's sitting as an MP and has the history with the party to put their name into the race to really show, faith in the party, faith in the what the party stands for. And she seems really clear that she wants to keep the party focused on those roots while growing the party and being more inclusive.
Janet, what do you make of Heather McPherson as a candidate for leadership of the NDP? And how steep a hill would she face in seeking that leadership given the blow her party took in the April election?
Well, even on election night, before Jagmeet Singh announced that he would be resigning, people were sending me messages saying saying the other McPherson should run. Heather McPherson should run. Nobody sent me a note about you, Karen, so just you're safe. But people were saying she should run, and she is a very compelling candidate for the NDP. To have a safe NDP seat here in Alberta is gold for the NDP. She represents a particular wing of the party. Avi Lewis sort of is a very central Canada choice. So I can see why the entire party wants her in this race. Whether members will vote for her or not is another thing, but her presence in the race is a very good thing for the federal NDP. It shows that they have regional depth. It shows that they have credible candidates that want to step forward and lead this party that, quite frankly, is on the ropes right now.
And Karen, what kind of focus would it put on Alberta were Heather McPherson to win the race? Then the leaders of the three key parties could all claim roots here in this province?
Well, the NDP really has, Western Prairie roots. So I think it's very fitting that she's running. And if she won, I think that would be amazing. I think having the balance of power with a Western seat would be fantastic for the country. Other provinces might not agree. And for Albertans to have some pride in how well represented we are.
All right. On that note, we are out of time. Great to see you both. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.